Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah, we are honored to hold this event or talk, inshallah. We welcome you first all over on this event. And I'm only going to introduce you to the speakers and the chair of this event. Mr. Mohammed Tawheed, who is here. We're going to introduce you to the main speaker, who is Yusuf Patel. Yusuf Patel is a SRE grassroots organization raising awareness about appropriate education for the children in our primary school.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحاقة ما الحاقة وما أدراك ما الحاقة كذبت ثمود وعاد بالقارعة فأما ثمود فأهلكوا بالطاغية وأما عاد فأهلكوا بريح صرصر عاتية سخرها عليهم 7 ليال و8 أيام حسوما فترى القوم فيها صرعى كأنهم أعجاز نخل خاوية فهل ترى لهم من باقية وجاء فرعون ومن قبله والمؤتفكات بالخاطئة فعصوا رسول ربهم فأخذهم أخذة رابية إنا لما طغى الماء حملناكم في الجارية لنجعلها لكم تذكرة وتعيها أذن واعية فإذا نفخ في الصور نفخة واحدة وحملت الأرض والجبال فدكتا دكة واحدة فيومئذ وقعت الواقعة وانشقت السماء وهي يومئذ واهية والملك على أرجائها ويحمل عرش ربك فوقهم يومئذ 8 يومئذ تعرضون لا تخفى منكم خافية فأما من أوتي كتابه بيمينه فيقول هاؤم اقرءوا كتابيه إني ظننت أني ملاق حسابيه فهو في عيشة راضية في جنة عالية قطوفها دانية كلوا واشربوا هنيئا بما أسلفتم في الأيام الخالية وأما من أوتي كتابه بشماله فيقول يا ليتني لم أوت كتابيه ولم أدر ما حسابيه يا ليتها كانت القاضية ما أغنى عني ماليه هلك عني سلطانيه خذوه فغلوه ثم الجحيم صلوه ثم في سلسلة ذرعها 70 ذراعا فاسلكوه إنه كان لا يؤمن بالله العظيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين صدق الله العظيم
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا كثيرا كما أمر رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Jazakallah khair for inviting myself, Muhammad Tawheed, and Brother Yusuf Patel to be able to open a discussion, a very important discussion about the future that is to come, i.e. about our children. For they are the next generation, and inshallah, the leading ambassadors for Islam. So it's very important that we protect them and we guide them through their early years until they are confident adults. Just a brief introduction about myself. My name is Muhammad Tawheed. I'm an educational consultant. I've been working in education for probably 12, 13 years. I've worked in primary school, I've worked in secondary school, I worked also in further education. Some of the local schools in Newham, Redbridge, and even in central London. I've also been trained by Ofsted, and I've done some inspections in some schools as well. Today's discussion, inshallah, we're going to have Brother Yusuf who's going to do a presentation, which after that you'll have an opportunity to ask certain questions, clarifications, and we'll even entertain some comments as well from yourself, inshallah. Brother Yusuf, he works in adult education for a homeless charity in Westminster, and is the founder of SRE Islamic, a grassroots organization raising awareness about the inappropriate teaching of SRE in primary schools. Some of the examples or the details he's going to give may be disturbing for us, but it's important that we discuss them, because what happens in the classroom is worse than what Brother Yusuf is going to mention. So it's important that we understand the context of what's going to be presented today. And SRE, amongst many other subjects, need to be discussed as well. For example, religious education, PSHE, even in PE, history, all of these subjects, many distortions or many things that get taught are offensive to the Muslims. As an example, I was talking to some students just earlier this week, and in religious education, RE, where they're supposed to learn about comparative religions to show the differences and similarities. And in that, the topic they happened to discuss was, and this is RE, homosexuality. And the religion they brought to discuss this was Islam. And they showed a video. And in this video, na'udhu billah, there was an imam who claimed he had children, and at the same time he said he was homosexual. Astaghfirullah. And then he carried on to say how nowhere in the Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned that it is a forbidden act. And this is in RE I'm talking about. But inshallah, without any further ado, most of the detail Brother Yusuf will be able to give. Like I said, after that you'll have an opportunity to ask questions, inshallah, and then we'll take from there. Brother Yusuf, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد بن عبد الله خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So I want to discuss the issue of SRE in schools, sex and relationship education, mainly in primary schools. And I think it's important that this discussion is placed within the correct context. That we don't just discuss this subject because it is a problem in some aspects of life, but that we are almost in this country swimming against the tide. You know, we are swimming against the tide. So we are swimming in a deep ocean whose tide is taking us away into an opposite direction. And we are struggling to maintain our positioning. And that is the analogy that we need to understand in understanding the context of SRE in primary schools. That when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the trust to the parents, gave this amana of children to parents, He gave the ultimate responsibility to each and every one of us. Each and every one of us who has children has a responsibility to ensure that we raise them to be good Muslims, raise them to understand the very values that will take them to Jannah, and those that they have to stay away from, the thorny path to Jahannam that is very easy to go down. And that is the responsibility of parents, of mothers and of fathers. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, ku anfusakum wa ahlikum nara, wa kuduha an-nasa wal hijara. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who have believed, guard yourself and your families against a fire whose fuel is people and stones. That is the responsibility, that is the ultimate responsibility. Because sometimes when I hear Muslims talk, they say, I'm sending my child to that school and not that school. And their primary reasoning is because that school academically is much better. It has much better facilities. The teachers are better trained. It has better results. And sometimes the idea of what are they going to be taught? Are they going to be coming out of the other side better Muslims or worse in terms of Islam, worse in terms of behavior, worse in terms of akhlaq, worse in terms of their whole conception of why they do actions in life? So I think we need to sometimes change our thinking about the very reason why we send our children to school and the overriding criteria and concerns that shape our decision making. Now this is what we could do in two ways. In this whole presentation, I want to cover these issues. What is the problem with SRE teaching? Is SRE part of the national curriculum? Who decides SRE? And what are your rights as parents? These are very important issues. But usually I like to find out from the audience what information you already know. Because if you know a lot of this information already, and I don't want to emphasize the information that you already know, I want to understand what you know. So I like to throw some of these questions to get an idea of where you are as an audience. So what do you think is the main problem regarding sex and relationship education in primary schools? Anybody? Yes.
They're taught at a very young age.
Okay, good. They're taught at a very young age. Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
It's taught from a non-Islamic perspective.
Okay. So taught from a very young age and taught from a very non-Islamic perspective. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
They're exposing their body parts.
Okay. So some of the discussions that they have around body parts and things are inappropriate for children. Some would say young children, some would say children of most ages. Yeah. Anything else?
Too much for too young.
Okay. There's too much taught at too young an age. Good. Okay. That's an important thing, and I'm going to discuss a few things around that in a short while. Is SRE part of the national curriculum? The reason why I ask this question is because sometimes when I speak to parents over the phone, they say that the school will argue that this is part of the national curriculum. Yeah? The reason why is that the government sets the national curriculum. English, maths, science, these are all national curriculum subjects. And you cannot decide whether your children are taught English, maths or science in any school. Neither are you allowed to question how they are taught. English, maths, science have to be taught according to the law because they are part of the national curriculum. But is SRE part of the national curriculum? Anybody?
Well, that's what the school says it is.
Sorry?
The school says it is.
The schools say that it's part of the national curriculum. But what is the reality of the issue? Yes?
It's not statutory things, or it's not a part of the curriculum. It depends if the governors or parents agree to do that.
Okay.
And the age of the children.
Okay. So that brother mentioned that it's a non-statutory part of the curriculum. It's not part of the curriculum, but the governing body decides whether to teach it or not, and at what age they start to teach it at. Okay. We'll come back to that because there's a bit more detail to that, but that's a good start. Okay. So who decides SRE? That's a bit of a overlap from the previous question. Who decides what is going to be taught in SRE in schools? Is it teachers? Head teachers? Is it the governing body? Is it the parents? Parents. Because the parents decide, and how do the parents decide and implement what's going to be taught in SRE? How do they say, this is what I want to be taught, and this is what I don't want to be taught?
Through the governing body.
Through the governing body, okay. So you're saying that the governing body is the one that decides whether what's going to be taught and at what age, okay. Any other points on that? Okay, good. Okay, so what are parents' rights? What are the rights of parents with regards to SRE?
They are allowed to filter, or we're allowed to withdraw individually.
Okay.
But then you have been made to be aware that if you move your children out, he or she gonna learn from the other kids and gonna even be much more dangerous.
Okay.
So they actually try to make you
Yes.
take
Yes.
it and then leave it. Okay?
That's a good point. So our Imam has said that SRE, the rights that parents have in regards to SRE is that parents can remove their children, withdraw their children from those classes, but that schools will try and convince you not to withdraw your children, because they'll say that they'll hear it from other children anyway. So that's a good point, that which we'll come back to. Okay. With the question, is SRE part of the national curriculum? SRE is actually taught within two subject areas. One is personal, social, health and economic education, which is PSHE education. And the second area is science. Now, within science, there are some aspects which are labelled as SRE. And this is a very contentious issue. This is not a straightforward issue. Some people will say that those areas of science which deal with what is called SRE are not really SRE. Because if you look at it, it says that in science, pupils should be taught to recognize and compare the main external parts of the bodies of humans and other animals, that humans and other animals can produce offspring, and these offspring grow into adults, that the life processes common to human beings and other animals include nutrition, movement, growth, and reproduction. So it carries on to say, to make links between the processes in familiar animals and plants and the environments in which they are found, and about the main parts of the flower. So here, there is an aspect of science which deals with a similar subject area, and I don't really regard this as SRE. This is actually saying that at the primary level, children have to be taught that there are some commonalities, some similarities between human beings and animals. And plants. That plants grow from seeds, and they grow through process of nutrition and growth. That animals also share some similarities with that, because animals also have offspring and they grow. And also human beings have offspring. They have children and they grow. But actually, in primary schools, in Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2, from the ages of 5 until 11, they only ever talk about that human beings have the capacity to reproduce. But some schools will interpret that to mean, let's discuss reproduction, let's discuss conception, let's discuss how a baby is conceived, how a baby grows in the body of in the womb of the mother, and how the baby is delivered. So they're going into further details, just because the science curriculum mentions the word reproduction. And that's very dangerous, because that is not acceptable teaching. That's teaching beyond the national curriculum. And where that happens, parents have to challenge that. What is happening in lots of schools that I've been working with parents in relation to, is that schools, when schools realize that lots of parents are unhappy with what is taught in SRE, in PSHE, lots of parents start to withdraw their children, and then schools say, what can we do? Let's move those aspects from PSHE into science by using what exists in science in terms of the science requirements, and let's teach about reproduction, about conception, so we can bypass parents. That is a major problem. So in science, there are aspects which are part of the national curriculum. You cannot take your children out from these classes, but they do not go into any great detail. The main external parts of the body. They talk about reproduction as a process, not to go into details about reproduction. But actually, the main part of SRE, sex and relationship education, is taught in PSHE education, personal, social and health education. And there's no curriculum. There's no curriculum for this that is centrally written. Rather, there are some curriculums that other organizations have written, but no school has to implement them. They can choose what they teach. And with PSHE, as different from science, in science they talk about the biology, the facts, the biological processes. In PSHE, that's where they talk about relationships. That's where they talk about the emotions, the emotional sides of relationships. And that's where many more of the liberal values will come into it. And it's very difficult to actually put all the liberal values into science if it's taught in the correct way. But it's very easy to do so in PSHE, because that's where you talk about relationships. That's where they can introduce ideas about boyfriends and girlfriends. They can introduce ideas about same-sex couples. They can introduce ideas about different family groups. That's where some of the other values may come into it. So you can remove your children from... let's go to the next one, sorry. So first, who decides SRE, which is very important. Sometimes when we speak to schools, and parents speak to schools, and they say, look, why are you teaching SRE? And they say, look, we have to teach it. We have to teach it. But actually, they don't have to teach it. The governing body of a school can say, I do not want to teach, we do not want to teach SRE at all. All that is legally required in schools is that you have an SRE policy. And the SRE policy can just have one statement in there to say the governing body spoke to parents, and in consultation with parents, we decided not to teach SRE outside of science. That's it. That's enough. And then they cannot teach it at all. But lots of schools will say, look, we have to teach it. And they'll say, look, it's part of the curriculum. Look, the government encourages us to do it. They'll use lots of different language to try and convince you that it's part of the curriculum. If the governing body of a school decides to teach SRE, that they have to start consulting parents. The guidance from the government, which was published in 2000, it very clearly states that governing bodies and head teachers should consult parents in developing their sex and relationship education policy to ensure that they develop policies which reflect wishes and the culture of the community they serve. That's very important. Because if an area is majority Muslim, the children come from a majority Muslim background, the way they teach SRE should be different from the way a school which has 100%, I don't know, maybe parents who are from another religious background or from no religious background at all. And the only way to find out what the culture of the community of that school is by asking parents. By asking you, what do you think about SRE? Should it be taught? How should it be taught? What values do you want to teach your children? Because the reality is, they are your children. They are not the school's children. They are even legally, they are your children. Islamically, they are your children. Biologically, they are your children. In every respect, they are your children. So when schools are going to teach something as sensitive as SRE, they should be asking you, how should we teach it? What values do you want us to teach them? How do you want us to teach it? Which resources do you want us to use? It says, it is also essential that governing bodies involve parents in developing and reviewing their policy. This will ensure that they reflect parents' wishes and the culture of the community the schools serve. So all the time it's saying, before any major decisions are being made around SRE, they should ask you for your views and your opinions. And the government guidance around inappropriate images is very important. It says, inappropriate images should not be used, nor should explicit material not directly related to explanation. Schools should ensure that pupils are protected from teaching and materials which are inappropriate, having regard to the age and cultural background of the pupils concerned. Governors and head teachers should discuss with parents and take on board concerns raised, both on materials which are offered to schools and on sensitive material to be used in the classroom. Most of the time in which resources about SRE are shown in schools, what happens is that there's an assembly, or in the hall or somewhere in the school, parents are invited in, and they are shown some of the materials that your children will be taught. And when parents start to raise concerns, I don't like this. No, I don't accept this. Schools sometimes will say, no, this is okay. Yeah? They will not start from the point of, if parents are concerned about the materials, we won't use them. If parents don't want these materials used and they think it's inappropriate, we won't use them. Lots of times you'll find that schools will just say, no, these materials are okay, lots of schools are using them. Yeah? These are materials that are developed by Channel 4 or BBC. Look, you watch Channel 4 and BBC at home, don't you? They're very, very good companies. Yeah? But what's your problem with them? But actually the response should be, what do you think about these? Yeah? Do you think showing an image of a naked man and woman is acceptable? Do you think a film of a naked man, woman and child is acceptable? Which some of the videos actually do show. Yeah? I was speaking to a parent just the other day from a school in Nottingham, and they were showing a BBC Active sex and relationship education video. And this video shows a man and a woman and a child of about 3-year-old child, all naked, walking down the hallway. Yeah? And then a man in the shower, a woman in the shower, naked. And this is 2 young children they're showing this. If you were to have this on your computer, it will be called child pornography. But when it's shown in a school, based upon education, they'll say, look, this is about education of children. We're trying to show children about what their bodies are. Don't be frightened of their bodies. Don't be scared of their bodies. They'll use all sorts of justification to try and push these materials through. But in effect, they have to ask for your views around these materials. And if you are concerned about them and you raise your concerns, the schools should listen to that. But most of the time, it's really about almost speaking again and again. Talking to schools and saying, we don't want these to be shown. And saying that same thing again and again. And then trying to enter into a dialogue with schools. And being consistent about that. Sometimes schools will grind you down. If you go into the school and complain, then the school will say, look, you're the only parent who's come to us. All these other Muslim parents, they've got no concerns about it. What's your problem? And then they'll use these comments to try and say to you, you are the extremist, or you are the one who has the problem with it. The materials aren't a problem, you are the problem. And then if that parent goes away, then their problem is solved. And if the parent keeps coming back, then they have a problem. So you need to be consistent in the way you do that, and I'll talk about that in a little while. So what are parents' rights? This is very important. Yeah? As the brothers mentioned, the parents have the right to withdraw from SRE. Yeah? You can take your children out from these classes. Yeah? And most, I've been speaking to parents for now 4 to 5 years around this, and I'm convinced more than ever, yeah, take your children out from these classes. I really do believe that. In the past, I would say, try and shape the SRE classes. Try and convince the school to do something that is neutral, that is not inappropriate, that goes into the most basic information possible. But actually, I think that to protect the values of your children, it's better to remove your children from these classes completely. Yeah? And this is after engaging with schools over a prolonged period of time, over 4 to 5 years. I say definitely just remove your children from these classes. The SRE policy of your school will tell you how to do that. So for example, I was speaking to a parent the other day, and he said he spoke to the school and said, I want to remove my children from these classes. And the school didn't allow that. But if you look at the SRE policy of the school, it should say, what is the process by which you remove your children? It may say you have to write a letter to the school and then arrange a meeting with the head teacher and then meet the head teacher. And even if after that meeting you're still not satisfied, then you can remove your children. But if parents don't go through that process, then schools will say, look, you haven't gone through the process, so you can't withdraw your children. So really look at the SRE policy. The school has an obligation to give you a copy of the SRE policy free of charge. Photocopy it and give it to you free of charge. And look through that to understand what to do to take your children out from these classes. Parents should be consulted. Yeah, unfortunately, a big problem in the Muslim community is that lots of parents, they want an easy life. To go to the school and complain about this causes headaches, causes problems for parents. They want an easy life, so sometimes they'll say, look, I don't want to do this. They'll hear it anyway, somewhere. So let them do it. But if you have that mentality for these classes, then you're going to have that mentality for everything. When they're older, they want to go to their friends' houses. And their friends' houses, there's parties with the alcohol. Are you going to say the same thing? Oh, look, I don't want a headache with my child. I don't want to argue with my child. Let them go. You know they're going to do it anyway. Is that what we're going to do to our children? Are we there to protect them? Are they amana? Are they a trust for us? A trust we'll be asked about. So instead of saying, sometimes some people are here say, look, it's too much of a headache. Say, no, actually, the most important thing in your life are your children. And if you want your children to grow up with the correct values, then you've got to really put the effort in. Put the time and the effort in with our children. It's very, very important. So parents should be consulted. And parents should give their views. And if the resources are inappropriate, that there's a Channel 4 video that parents have been complaining about for years. Yeah? And the Channel 4 video, it has a cartoon. Yeah? And a cartoon of a man and a woman engaging in something which should be private. Yeah? A man chasing a woman around a bedroom. And then engaging in activities which are for the privacy of the home between a husband and wife. But it is shown to young children. Parents have been complaining about this for years. And only recently the government minister spoke to Nick Gibb, the schools minister, the previous schools minister, spoke to Channel 4. And only recent Channel 4 have now stopped that video. That video is no longer being sold by Channel 4. But that video is in most schools, most primary schools in this country. Because I know, because I've written to every primary school in London, and that name comes up again and again. 1,700 schools. Most of the schools use this resource. Channel 4 Living and Growing. Some schools use the BBC Active programme, which has the naked man and woman walking down the hall with a child. Yeah? So unless you start to challenge some of this, then schools will think look, parents are not concerned. Parents don't matter. Parents don't care. We just carry on how we want to. And actually, if you say a material is inappropriate, the school has to accept your definition of what is inappropriate. The schools cannot say, this is appropriate materials, unless they ask you, is this appropriate or inappropriate? And if you say, this, I don't believe this is appropriate according to my religion, according to my values, according to my culture, this is not appropriate, then they have to listen to you and not use those resources. And also schools have to be transparent. They have to show you all the materials. Sometimes, I've got emails from a council advice to a school in Tower Hamlets. And the advice was, don't show the parents all the materials. Because if you show the parents all the materials, they'll get upset. Yeah? And they won't understand the context behind the materials. So just be careful which materials you show your parents. Yeah? And this is actually advice from a council to a school to say, don't show everything. So be prepared when you go to see the materials that the school is using. Yeah? Be prepared not to be shown everything. Sometimes school will hold things back. But ask to see everything. Say, do you have a DVD or a video that you show? Do you have any other books or any other resource packs or any other worksheets that you use? And see everything. Even if you have to come back to the school on another day, yeah, take time out and go and see what's going to be given to your children, what's going to be shown to your children. Yeah, make sure you see everything. Really, this issue is this is an important issue, that the children are an amana, are a trust for us, and that we can get schools to help us to teach our children different subjects, but the responsibility rests with us, still remains with us. The responsibility to raise our children is our own responsibility, and we cannot expect anybody else to do that. Yeah? Sometimes I hear discussions a lot of the time. Some people say, look, I don't want to send my children to a state school. I want to send my children to a Muslim school, or I want to homeschool my children. Yeah? Whatever decision you make about how your children are going to be educated, yeah? Wherever they go, you still have to be vigilant. Yeah? You still have to realize, all of us with children have to realize we have a responsibility to ensure that they're being raised Islamically. Yeah? That the environment in which they're being taught in will ensure that they have the best chance in life to lead an Islamic life and accept the values that we believe in. Because I see children every day. Yeah, I see when I walk down. Sometimes if I've got a day off work, I walk down and I see children coming out of a secondary school or even some primary schools. The type of behaviour I see, even from Muslim children, yeah, whose names are Abdullah, Abdul Malik, and Muhammad. The type of behavior I see from them is the type of behavior I see from any other child. And actually, our children have to stand out. Yeah, our children have to stand out that we have something precious. We have something important. We have important values that we believe in. Values of haya, yeah, of modesty. Values of good conduct towards others. Yeah, we have values which prohibit us from swearing. Yeah, every other word, F word this, F word that. Yeah, we don't insult other people. Yeah, we don't insult people's mothers. Yeah, we have respect for the elders. We have respect for our parents. We believe that Jannah is under the feet of our mothers. We believe that the mother is the most important person in our life for us. We believe that even if our parents are old and we are moved out of the home, our responsibility is still towards them. We believe in these values. Values which have been rejected by the society at large. But if we don't teach our children these values, then what's to say that the future generations will not have these values? What's to say your children will not put you in an old people's home? Because that's what everybody else does. What's to say that your children will grow up with just Muslim by name and pray Jummah and not do anything else? It's about what the time and effort that we put into our children, that is, inshallah, will give them a good standing, a good start in life to live their life by Islam. So I would actually say that it's important to withdraw your children from these classes. Very important. The malign influence of these classes are too great. Yeah? Because the values the values in these classes, from these classes they believe, these people believe that children are going to engage in relations, yeah, at an early age. They accept that. They believe that is inevitable. Yeah? They believe that we can't stop that. So all we got to do is give them as much information to make that relationship as safe as possible. We don't believe that. We don't believe that it's inevitable for our children to engage in this type of behavior. We believe it's a matter of choice. And what we teach our children and what they practice, what they see us practicing and what they follow from our own actions, they're more likely to believe in. I want to read you something. Yeah, we're doing a lot of work in Tower Hamlets because lots of schools there have majority Muslim children, but the schools are teaching very inappropriate things. And we asked some of the parents to write down examples, examples of their own experience in SRE. And we received 20 of them. But I want to read one to you today. Yeah, and when I read this, I was shocked, and subhanallah, I did not know what to say. Because it's as a parent, if you imagine your own child being in that position, yeah, then you really think that actually our children go to these schools and we trust these schools, but our children are not safe in a lot of these schools. Yeah. So the mother writes this. It says, "When my older son was in year 6, the final year in primary school, I found out that the school would be teaching SRE. I made it clear to the school that I did not want my son to participate in any of the sessions. But despite my wishes, the school went ahead with the sessions with my son participating. I had no knowledge of this until I caught my son downloading pornography on the internet. When confronted with this, my son said that his teacher told him to type in keywords such as vagina, penis, etc. in order to explore the subject further. I was infuriated and went to see the head teacher. Instead of apologizing, the head teacher's remark was to sarcastically tell me to cut off your internet. I was outraged and so took my complaint further to the education department. The outcome of that complaint was also favorable to the school. My son has not been the same since. My son's innocence has been stolen and my relationship with my son has been compromised. I hold the school and the system solely responsible for this." And this, you think this is an exceptional case. I hear these stories all the time from schools. Because the way they teach SRE is not according to any values. If my son went to a school and they were taught SRE according to even Christian values, I would be a lot more happier than the lack of values that they teach in schools. Actually, the way they teach in schools at the moment is very liberal. Yeah? Just give information. As much information. It's like the child is a computer and you're uploading information into that computer. But you're not giving that child any way of sifting that information. This is good, this is bad. This is acceptable behavior, this is unacceptable behavior. But you're rather just telling children, this is all the information that you need. Now go and find out for yourself. That is very dangerous. Yeah? Values are important because values are about this is right, this is wrong. In Islam we know this is halal, this is haram. This is acceptable action, this is unacceptable action. Yeah? But this is not how they teach it in schools, which is one of the dangers of SRE in primary schools. Okay, so I just want to end there, yeah, with your questions, with your answers, with my answers, with your comments. Yeah, any issue that you want to raise. Yeah, we've also produced like a small leaflet which summarizes a lot of these issues. Yeah, so please do take these for yourself and for other people. Yeah, to try and raise awareness about these issues, because unfortunately most Muslim parents are sleepwalking. Yeah, are sleepwalking into a false sense of security. They believe that they're sending their children to school from 9 in the morning until 3 when they pick them up, and they're in a safe environment. But some of the values that they're being taught are not nurturing them with the values that we want for them to hold. So please do help us to spread the message, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan.